1320 WILS. You know, back in World War II, there was a German battleship known as the Bismarck, and this was the pride of the Kriegsmarine, the German Navy, and the scourge of the Royal Navy. In the short time it was afloat, it became a priority to sink the Bismarck, and eventually the Royal Navy did, but not before damaging the Bismarck. It must have been something to be the captain of that German ship, knowing he had all the power in the world, all of the armament in the world, but no rudder, no helm. It wouldn't answer the helm. So you were in control of anything. You were moving, but you were not in control. Can we think about life and work that way sometimes, too? You maybe have a high-stress job, but you don't have any control. Is it something that leads to higher mortality? There's some new information that suggests, yes, indeed, that's very much true. Always enjoy welcoming in CEO Zig Ziglar International and a business coach, Michael Ray Newman. Michael Ray, good morning.
Good morning to you, brother. Good to hear from you again.
Hey, appreciate you being here. Well, when you're low control, high stress, high demand, that's tough. When you're high control, higher stress, higher job command, I guess you could say, that's a better position to be in. But the idea of an increased mortality level, did that surprise you at all, or is that something that you buy into?
We've seen that for sure. We have people that when they do let that overwhelm them, and this whole conversation is a pretty big old elephant. We got to take it a bite at a time. There's a lot to it, but there for sure is some correlation to when people feel like they don't have control. They worry about things more, and then it does impact them. So emotionally and physically. Yeah,
mentally, physically. How does that begin to manifest itself? The people you've worked with, man, you sit there and you work with companies, you work with all the companies, you work with individual CEOs. A lot of those CEOs have a high degree of they have a high job demand, but they also have control too. They can push those buttons, but sometimes people under them are the ones getting pushed. So, how do you see that manifest itself?
You know, it really does go both ways. There are people that have the power and they can control it, but they still don't handle it because when you let that bleed over into your personal life and you really lose balance, it manifests itself in poor eating habits, poor family relationships. When you carry all that baggage and you let it affect you and impact you personally, which we all do, but the key to the whole thing is it does manifest itself in those different ways, but the key to it every single time is step back and try to find some semblance of balance.
How do you do that? I mean, it's one thing to identify, but the tricky thing is to actually implement and act on that.
That's right, and we can, just like your granny used to say, control the things that you can control, and then deal with the things and manage the things that you can't. Really celebrate the things that you love, whether it be your family, and get back to that. Because here's what happened in this age group too that you see the study. These people they were used to to balance that comes in 24 hours. Balance doesn't come in 24 hours anymore. We don't go to work, sleep for 8 hours, work for 9, come home, eat dinner with the family, watch TV, and do it again. That balance is no longer existent. Balance really comes in two ways now. We've got to really recognize it. Balance comes in seasons, first of all. There are times when we do have to bear down and work, and then we have to get a little bit out of balance with work. But remember, there's the second type of balance is in moments. We've got to be able to step back out of those moments, pull ourselves away, and understand that is work. That is not who we are. It's something we do. Work is not necessarily all the time somewhere we go. It's something that we do.
Do you find that
still some of those moments?
Do you find that people who can't do that? Do you find that people, Michael Ray, who can't? We're visiting Michael Ray Newman, CEO Zig Ziglar International. Always enjoy having him on here. Got great perspective. Do you ever find that people who can't step away from that for a moment and realize the difference, if they ever do lose their position, they lose their job, do they feel like they've lost all of their identity, like they've just become a non-person, whereas somebody else says, well, this is where I dust myself off and move on to the next great opportunity? Is that a hard thing for those kind of people to do?
Yeah, when you really hang your hat and let that be your self-worth, that really is devastating when that happens. You got to understand that failure is an event, not a person, and your job is something you do, not who you are. That's a really good point.
Well, and I mean, look at my own career. When I've looked at different times, people say, why did you make that move? Why did you do that at that point? Seems counterintuitive. But I would say because that's what I felt like doing. I wanted to make my own decision on X, Y, or Z and not have that decision made for me by some, I think there's something to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same for every person, but you have to, that comes from inside, not from outward.
That's right. That's that within motivation. There's 3 types of motivation. There's fear motivation, which unfortunately is where this category came from. During the recession, they were glad they had a job. They were fearful for losing it. Do your job or you get fired. The second type of motivation is that incentive motivation, where they do dangle the carrot in front of the donkey and he's pulling the cart. But eventually the donkey gets full. But that third type is when you've been knocked down. It's innate. It's within us. It's that fire within us that gets us to stand back up, take another step. I love the story with Lou Holtz. He sat down, he wrote down 103 goals when he was 28 years old, 103 things he wanted to do. It was his bucket list. He showed it to his wife, and there's 2 funny things about it. He showed it to his wife. She added one more thing, and it was get a job. That's funny. He was 28 years old. He had just been fired. So a lot of people carry that and let that devastate him. He got up and wrote down his whole bucket list, and he was so optimistic. He just knew that wasn't who he was. It was just something that he did, and he could go out, and his self-worth was to take a step and find something new. Well,
I know that's great. It comes from his. Well, there's something about being a better half, and there's something about the institution of marriage. It gets a lot of knocks, but that person can be that's your own best partner, but they can build you up. They can also make sure that you don't get too lofty ahead at certain things, right?
I mean, kicking the seat of the pants when you need it, right?
Oh yeah. Hey, you had a great show today. By the way, that's not going to fix itself with duct tape. Okay, so go and get that. They're just things that can be. They bring you down to reality, but that's a part of separating from that work person from that rest of the life person, and understanding it. You'll get a reminder of that from your spouse or your partner.
Yeah, they help us to move along the way, good and bad. So, I mean, through the good and the bad, you also need to remember you have those people around you, whether you have a spouse, friend, family member. So you have to take the time and pour back into them as well. And that really helps when you're struggling and you're getting beat up by work. Go help somebody else. When you can be significant in someone else's life, when you can help other people do and have a little bit more, I promise you're going to feel a lot better. Yeah, and so that idea of even if you want to call it mentoring, sometimes I've heard people actually say you find yourself in doing that as you're helping somebody else take that next step up, and whether you want to call it pay it forward or whatever, but that also helps to separate from this work who I am to crossing over and doing that transition to the real life work-life balance. It's never a 50-50. Sometimes you'll say, man, I'll settle for 70-30 today, and other days it's more than that. But yeah, you get it. Michael Ray Newman, ZIGLAR. What's the website for that? I want to make sure I get it right. Oh, great. ZigZiglarInternational.com.
ZigZiglarInternational.com. Michael Ray Newman, always great to talk to you. Good stuff today. Thank you, sir.